afternoon, and thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month, so that means it's time for Bird Notes. Joining us, as always, is bird expert and conservation biologist for Audubon, Vermont, Mark LaBarr. It's good to see you, Mark.
Always great to be here.
And as our viewers might notice, last month we had Caleb May on the show. He was filling in for you, and thank you again to Caleb. That was incredible. So where were you? Why weren't you here?
And again, my thanks to Caleb for
he did a great job.
For subbing in for me while I was away. Well, I was in one of my favorite places, the country of Belize in Central America, just south of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. It's on the Gulf of Mexico coast. And I was down there volunteering for an NGO, non-governmental organization that works out of Belize and does bird work just like I do.
How long have you been going down there?
This will be my third year, although I've been to Belize a couple more times prior to that, once way back in the 90s when I first got a taste of it. Great.
And the first photo you brought for us today is a bird that we see here in Vermont as well. So what were you down there for?
So this is the bird I was chasing, so to speak. Okay, for some viewers may remember from a previous Across the Fence Bird Notes that we were putting these small transmitting devices called nanotags on this bird here, the wood thrush, in an effort to track their migration patterns. So we had some of those tags left over from this U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service project. And I took them with me and brought them down to Belize, and we put them on wood thrush there at two different sites in Belize. That was my vacation.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And when I saw your next picture, I thought this would be a pretty fun place to hang out. Tell me a little bit about Toucan Ridge.
So Toucan Ridge Environmental and Ecological Society, also fondly known as TREES, is this great spot down in central Belize, butting right up against the Maya Mountains. And it does all sorts of research, from bird banding to bat work to turtle tracking. And this work is done by a host of young, early professional Belizean biologists. So it's really there, and you can see this picture. It's a little bit rustic. You know, you go there, you get a space to stay in one of these buildings, and the Maya Mountains are right there behind it. Not too different from the Green Mountain Audubon Center. But these young core of biologists that work there and train there are just great folks to hang out with and volunteer for.
Sure, and you mentioned birds, you mentioned bats, so what kind of conservation do they do there?
So a little bit of everything, depending on the year. So right now as we speak, in fact, I got a couple of texts this morning of birds that they're catching because they've started their spring migration study. But our goal there during the winter was to catch these wood thrushes on their winter territories, put these nanotags on, and then send them on their way.
And you're following the wood thrush, but what were the specifics that you were up to in Belize?
So wood thrush is the primary bird of this particular study. And so my goal was to catch at least 10 of them. Here you can see the TREES bird banding station, where most of the work gets done. And we caught 5. We use mist nets. So this is Emma and Scandia. Scandia works at TREES. Emma's an intern. So they do internships down there. But our focus was catching wood thrush and putting these nano tags on.
Absolutely, and these nano tags, they're pretty small, right?
They're little small backpacks that fit on the back of the wood thrush. As I said, they emit a signal, and this signal is picked up by a number of towers all over Central, South, and especially North America. Just like your cell phone, they ping off these towers. You can see here, this is one of the tracks from a bird that we put a nano tag on down at Dead Creek. And you can see this that tag tracks this bird to having last been pinged or hit a tower in Belize. So it shows that our birds are heading down to these areas. Now that bird may have gone a little bit further and not been picked up by another tower, but it'll help us, these nanotags will help us figure out some of these migration patterns for the wood thrush.
Sure. And when Caleb was visiting last month, he told us about migrant birds and vagrant birds. So did you pick up any other cool birds while you were down there?
Well, you know, it's funny because when you go down there, it's just alive with birds. You know, all the native birds are there. And then you've got many of our migrants as well. Well, one of the cooler ones, you know, we have a lot of good sparrows, but they're often fall into the little brown bird category. But this is the orange-billed sparrow. So this is a Belizean bird, non-migratory, that is heard quite often around the banding station and the grounds there at Trees. Another good one that we saw was the tawny winged wood creeper. So this group of birds do just that. They kind of work like a woodpecker up a tree, picking and getting insects. So that was another good one. And then we also caught...
It's a euphonia? Is that how it is?
A euphonia, yes. This is an olive-backed euphonia, a nice male. Very colorful. Many of these birds that we catch down there are sporting all sorts of colors.
Sure, I've never heard of this one, so is it specific to Belize?
It is. It's a Central American bird. And then a really cool one is this next picture. This is an American pygmy kingfisher. Now, our kingfisher, which we see, the belted kingfisher, is quite a big bird. It takes me almost 2 hands to hold it. This is a little tiny guy, and that big bill is used for catching fish along the streams that run throughout Belize.
Wow.
So, you know, some really good birds that we caught down there. There's always birds singing. There are always birds calling. Mark, one of the folks that works there, is an excellent birder. So you follow him around or you use your Merlin because, you know, I'm at a loss for a lot of these calls. But a great place to spend a couple of weeks during the winter months.
Yeah, absolutely. And Merlin, of course, you're talking about a phone app, is that right?
I am. I'm talking about the phone app. So you can download a Belize pack and use that to identify birds down there. It's quite nice.
Yeah, a little cheat sheet.
Yes, very much so.
And you talked about some birds that were specific to Belize, but how about the ones that will soon be making their way our direction?
So, along with the wood thrush, catbird, other things, there's a bird that we may begin seeing here in Vermont as if things change. This is the Kentucky warbler. It's a species of the southern U.S. It is just south of us. So as things change over time, we may begin seeing this bird here in Vermont. One never knows. So that was a nice little thing. We have the scarlet tanager, but they do catch what's called the summer tanager. Our scarlet tanager has black wings. This bird is obviously all red. Breeds across the southern U.S. and through Texas and into the west. So that was another cool North American breeder that we found. And one of ours that we see across Vermont, we have these birds breeding along the stream at the Green Mountain Audubon Center. This is the Louisiana water thrush. And it has that big white eyebrow above its head, pops its tail up and down, bounces it. So that's another species that we come across.
Absolutely, and in all these photos we've seen other people in the background, so you're working with a pretty big crew, is that right?
We are, and it's great for me. So the Trees crew, which consists of biologists, here they all are, and interns, folks that some of them focus on bats, but many of the young professionals that are here do a little bit of everything. Bats when they need to, birds when they need to. Track turtles, which are native to Belize, using something similar, a little tag on the back of the shell that they can figure out where the turtle is. So a vast array of different projects going on down at Trees.
Absolutely. And it's spring up here, so a little bit cooler, but at the Audubon Center you guys boil sap, is that right?
We do. And
is it running?
It is. It has been running. We'll probably... we've been making syrup, but this is also a kind of a teaser for what's coming up because there are some birds that are back now. The sugar bird, what I call the brown creeper, has been singing. The other day we had song sparrows show up. The bluebirds have showed up on my box. This is a good time for folks to clean out their bluebird houses, nest boxes.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Always knock first because you never know what might be in there, and to get ready for them. And I'm just waiting patiently for the woodcock or the timberdoodle to show up in the field next to my house. So blackbirds, another bird that's back. So, we're getting ready. It's still a couple months off before we get the main push of migrants up through.
Yeah, when can we expect that?
Usually May, mid-May to late May, and then we'll begin hearing the wood thrush singing in our woods, and hopefully with those tags on, the ones that I put on, we'll know the route that they traveled back. And so very exciting to see those birds back when they come. But for now, we just have to be patient and take species by species as they show up and get excited.
Appreciate each one.
Appreciate each one.
Sure, and one species that's coming out, not a bird, but it is a bear. So when should people think about bringing their
So
feeders?
now is the time to bring your feeders in. Certainly, you know, I've heard of a couple instances of bears taking down feeder stations recently. So get those feeders in. The bears are hungry and they're coming out, and it's just not a good thing to tempt them. And,
Sure.
and as well as feeders, think about your garbage, securing that, things of that nature. We don't want those bears to become, you know, accustomed to us.
Absolutely, and we talked about cleaning out bird houses, but should you do any bird feeder maintenance before you put them in?
Yeah, it's always good that once the season's over that you do a thorough cleaning of all of your feeders, you know, with a 4-to-1 ratio of bleach to water. And you know, you'll need to do that again in the fall. It's always worth it. But get a head start on your cleaning. Get the winter's grime and grud out of there, and just get ready and keep your ears open for what's going to start showing up on your lawn.
Absolutely. We're almost out of time, but I just got to ask, if somebody's been watching for a while and heard all of your great stories about Belize, is it somewhere you recommend going yourself?
Oh yeah,
just a fan?
Belize is a great country. And one of the nice things about Belize, it has a coast. I spend most of my time back in the forest, in the jungle. But it is an English-speaking country. It's the only English-speaking country in Central America. So for those of us that are challenged by language,
Sure.
it's very easy. Many folks go down and they do go to the coast. But there are a good number of people from all over the world that go to Belize just to see some of these tropical birds.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome back to Vermont.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, bird-related questions or anything, you can send it along to Mark LaBarr at the address on your screen, or email Mark at his address, which is mlabarr@audubon.org. You can send Mark your questions and pictures, and he'll try and find answers for you on the upcoming edition of Bird Notes. That's our program for today. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX, who are always for the birds. I'm Jolie Whitney. This is Across the Fence. Have a good one.